Welcome to the first episode of the Bigger, Braver, Bolder podcast.
I'm super excited about today, Debbie. This is going to be a great session. Tell us who you've got on with you today.
Oh my God, right. So I've got Veronica Bennett, my bestie in the whole world is back. This will be our third podcast that we've done together. The first in the new season, the first in the season of Bigger, Braver, Bolder. And yeah, we're going to be talking about discovery today and particularly listening around discovery. I think we just felt, didn't we, that Vron had to be the first one.
Of course.
For sure.
Of course. Just remind people then about your relationship with Veronica. So she's obviously your best friend, but you go way, way, way back, don't you?
Yeah. So Ron and I met over 30 years ago now. God, that ages me. When we first were nursing together. So two little nurses. And yeah, we met at work, obviously. And we've just continued to be friends ever since. And just not just friends, like we are just so aligned. We're like, we just have each other's back. We just have such a great foundation of a friendship that we just seem to grow together as well, which is the other kind of really weird thing. So yeah, we were little nurses. She's now a qualified psychotherapist. I'm now CEO, as you know, and yeah, she moved up to Harrogate to live near me about 10 years ago, when her kind of circumstances changed family wise, and so that was really great. And then of course I've just moved away to Oz and she's still there, so that's been hard. I mean, obviously, leaving family and friends has been the hardest thing about moving to Oz, for sure. The excitement and the opportunity, but the leaving everyone behind, and particularly leaving Ron. And it also was a bit of a double bubble because it'll probably come up in the episode, but she also has had some significant ill health as well this last year. So yeah, we've got a connection, as have Ron and I, for sure. It's weird coming back, and the first one in Australia, and of course the first one that we're doing, having to do online, really, 12,500 miles away. I mean, you're 12,500 miles away from me right now, and it's your morning and my evening. So we've got all of those different sort of dichotomies that are going on, which is, got to navigate all of that. So let's hope that my production team is on point.
I think we can safely say now you've got an international podcast then.
Oh my God, we can. Yeah, I've now got 4 listeners. Yay. Amazing.
Let's get to it.
Here we go. So 12,500 miles currently is the distance between you and I.
I know.
But we are both wearing yellow.
I know.
So it's your morning and my evening. So what time is it where you are?
So it is now 7:17 in the morning.
AM.
Yes.
Okay. And it is 4:17 PM. So I have been in this outfit for most of the day, and you have just woken up.
And
this is our first podcast like this, and we're both in yellow.
I know. That says a lot. I'm not sure what it says, but it says a lot.
Yeah. So we've not done that. Hey, what are you wearing? There's been none of that. It was literally.
Oh no, we've never done that in our time together, have we? We've never done that. Oh, what you wearing thing, unless it's going to be a massive party or something, and that's not been to know what you're wearing. It's been excited about what we're putting together. So yeah,
exactly. So this is my new podcast, Bigger, Braver, Bolder. And I am now in Australia, and you are at home in good old Blighty. And the last podcast that we did was when I was leaving, and we were looking at that. I was kind of moving away, and here we are. So I suppose it's all about discovery, right, is where I'm at. And I've been telling everyone that this is my discovery era. Like, um, and has probably been my discovery era for about the last 12 weeks or so, where I've been discovering coming to a new country, discovering a new role, a new job, a new culture, and setting up a new home to some extent, discovering what it's like to leave my pals, to leave my best pal in the world. All of those things have all been about discovery. And I've learned some kind of like really interesting things. And then I was thinking, and you're at home but you've been discovering as well, haven't you? So,
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I guess we're always in that phase of discovery if we have a mind to be,
mm,
aren't we? Just as you were saying there about your journey, kind of like culturally and in a culturalization to a new culture, it reminded me of my journey to Blighty, as an 8-year-old, and kind of the journey through setting up a home and being, with my new family. And so yeah, I guess for me, yeah, we're always on that journey of discovery if we are mindful to punctuate it and to notice it. And I know for you, um, yeah, this has been a massive thing. And yeah, it's been such a, yeah, bittersweet and a privilege as well to kind of been with you on the journey to where you are now, and all the journeys you're embarking on in this little time. It feels that you've been in Australia.
it's crazy when you say that as well. Like when you remind me that you were 8 when you came from Jamaica to the UK, and we won't say how old I am, but I'm a lot older than 8. Um, and so, yeah, I guess so. Just sort of doing that for you. What bits of that do you remember? What bits do you remember about that whole kind of discovery? Then, what do you remember things that you did discover? Is there a couple of things that really resonate to you that you think that you can remember back and think, wow, that was quite a discovery?
Yeah, I guess the typical one, which I was reading that or hearing someone talk about it the other day. I think it was on TV. It was the weather. Um, and
The good old weather. And we were
yeah,
just talking about the weather. It's always the
I know.
weather.
I know. Start with the weather, we'll middle with the weather. Um, yeah, just the weather really and the change, but the miracle of snow. I think that was, that was just so amazing. Yeah, it was just such a discovery. Um,
Did you know
then
what
I
it
guess
was? It was like when you saw it, or
no,
did you?
not at all. Not at all. I don't think. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's really interesting question because I think like discovery is all about change, and it's all about how we approach that change and what we're told and what we're not told and how we kind of know what to expect. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know that there was this thing called snow. I did think though there was pennies on the pavement, dropped from heaven in England, pennies and pound coins, and that life was going to be just so amazing. No, but the snow was real and it was amazing. Yeah, so that's one thing. I guess the other thing was language and meanings and beliefs and adapting to that. So yeah, and education. Yeah, which is I think amounts a lot to language and meaning. So yeah.
And what about relationships?
Wow, that's a biggie, isn't it? It's such a biggie. Yeah, very, very different. And I think that's kind of been a prompt of my life, really. I think as you do change culture and live somewhere different, or go through your life cycle transitions, the relationships are so key, aren't they? As I've been learning from you, in your situation. Yeah, so relationships were a big challenge, and sometimes a big joy. I think.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I guess I was just thinking, as you were thinking of the 8-year-old versus me now in my situation and those kind of similarities. And of course, yeah, the weather is obviously one that I am definitely learning is very different to the UK. I've just been in winter, as you know, in Australia, and the winter in Australia is nothing like winter in the UK. So yeah, so I suppose there is that. There's the weather thing, but I guess relationships, like when you're an 8-year-old or whether you're, our age now, it's like relationships in that kind of whole discovery. Because I'm discovering, I guess, how to maintain relationships.
Hmm.
Like us, like this is now our new normal, isn't it? We do this every week. I mean, today we're being recorded, but like we do it, don't we, every week, and we've got really good at it, haven't we? I want to talk
Yeah.
a bit more about that in a minute. And then I'm learning there's new relationships as well. There's the whole kind of cultural relationships. There's the fact now that it's Mark and I on our own really most of the time now, apart from when I'm at work. I've got new kind of colleague relationships, and as an 8-year-old, it would be relationships. And I think one of the things that I'm really learning, and I knew it, right? Of course I did. I'm a leader, and the age I am, and I've been leading organizations, but it really resonates, is listening. And, it's one of those things that we kind of say, don't we? Oh, listening is really important, and I'm a great listener. And your role, in your job, about that. But I think coming the other side of the world and not taking everything for granted, thinking, oh, Australia is like the UK and it's all like, no, 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 really listening and not assuming, when you get to my age, my experience, I've been CEO of organizations, I've done all those things. And you think like, yeah, you don't arrogantly, because I would never do that anyway, that, but you think, yeah, 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 there's things that I know. And there's particularly around, but I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen. You really have to listen. You really have to listen. So as an 8-year-old, do you think, did you listen, do you think? Or do you think at an 8-year-old, you don't need to listen, you just observe, or when you come in? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I'm waffling, but
No, not at all. As you were talking there, I was thinking about listening is like the new knowing. Um, and I
oh, I love
think,
that.
and
I
I
was like,
think,
that needs to be on a t-shirt. Again, why whenever we do this, it's like listening is the new knowing by Veronica Bennett. Love it.
yeah, that's what occurred to me as you were talking. And I think, um, as a 8-year-old, it was, um, it's funny that you talk about it and how it's kind of really connected and resonates with me in terms of listening became my position, almost my personality. I can't remember, but maybe I was a listener back before I came here anyway, because of the way my relationships within my family were punctuated and my age and stuff. So never kind of involved in the adult conversations, but always kind of taking a listening position from afar and trying to get to know what was going on. And I think that kind of really followed me into my career, in that, I've worked in health and social care in roles where very important to be part of that interview where you make and allow people to feel listened to. And part of that is taking a position of listening and speaking. And that sounds quite like, I don't know, it sounds quite simple, and but it's fundamental, I think, and there's more to those things than words can even explain. But yeah, I think I listened a lot as a child. I listened a lot when I came into um, my constructed family. And then where it kind of happened in my job that I'm a listener and I love listening. I love taking that position. And sometimes there can be, affordances to that, and sometimes there can be huge constraints, but I'm comfortable with being a listener.
What do you think? and this is like you as Veronica, but then also you as the therapist, the psychotherapist. What do you think gets in the way of genuine listening, of people genuinely listening? What do you think things get in the way?
I think, as you said, one of the massive things is assumption.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but also, I think the way you come into that position of listening, the way that whole listening and talking conversation starts, and recognizing where you are in your day, in your life, in those moments, how are you coming to that conversation? What's going on for you before you're coming into this conversation.
Oh, no, yeah, that's really interesting, I guess. So for you, then, you have to listen every day, like every day, all day, and so do I. But I also have to do a lot of talking, so
Yeah.
I have to do equal listening and talking, which clearly for me is a massive problem. Not. Um, but for you, so your job is listening and yeah, like feeding back. So you're saying it's how you come into that. So do you prepare yourself then? Is there like before you go into your sessions, your therapy sessions, do you prepare yourself and do you prepare yourself differently for different sessions ever? Or is it always the same prep?
Yeah,
Like I don't know.
that's really interesting questions. Yeah, I think you have to prepare yourself to take a listening position and to take a talking position. So I read a paper a while ago, and it was about listening to talk. So listening to talk, and also that happens in the moment. So you take quite a reflexive position on the situation you come into. So before I came to this conversation today, I was having a think, how am I today? What's influencing me today? What's in that meta perspective? What's going on behind me, and what have I got to face? Not particularly in this conversation, but the rest of my day. So it's kind of, I bet, centering and being aware of the things that might either um, confuse the conversation, make the conversation more difficult, make it harder for me to listen, make it harder for me to be transparent. So it's all those things in terms of preparing. But now it's become like a second skin. It's like yeah, it is so with me that is what I do. But it can have some really um it's not constraining, it's just kind of like taking that responsibility for yourself. And sometimes you wish you could just, I don't know, run through the daffodils and just kind of think it doesn't matter so much. And one of our conversations a while ago, or our little WhatsApps, was about how you were listening, and how the positions you felt you were taking in that listening, and how I felt really that you might have been feeling there was a huge burden of responsibility to listen and to act quite quickly in your position as a CEO.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's really interesting because there's a number of things I think in there to unpack really. So I think first of it is about the role of a CEO and the roles that as a psychotherapist as well in that sense. And if even went back, role as nurses, which I'll probably come on to in a little bit. But so the role of a CEO and role of a psychotherapist, there's an expectation that part of that is listening. It's listening. It's learning. It's understanding. Because that's the only way that you can do the job that you do. Different outcomes for sure, but that's the way that it is. But I guess there's that bit of, you were talking there as well about active listening and people who, I see it all the time, people who just wait to speak. They're not listening. Let's be honest. They're sitting there waiting to be like, they're like, they're desperate to get in and say their piece. So they're not listening. They're not actively listening. So there's that. But then I think for me as well, I think I am a good listener, but then I'm also a solutions person.
Yeah.
So it's that having that balance of how much listening I do before I think, right, come on then, let's look. I know the answer to this. Let's just get it sorted. Come on. Da, 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 da. And and this whole experience here, the last kind of 13 weeks or plus or so, probably even before that, when I was even thinking about coming over, was just really having to listen to myself and my intuition, listening to my family and how they felt, my friends, and then coming here now, I'm listening all the time to colleagues, to the external stakeholders, and getting everyone's views, and then trying to pull all those views together. And just, I guess, getting the balance right, because balance is another thing that I've really got in my head at the moment as well. Balance just keeps coming up. I just did an article about it in LinkedIn, but like, because balance is so important here. The balance of listening versus acting, the balance is listening versus kind of insights that then lead you to act properly and to not assume. And yeah, and I think in the main I get that right, but I think this experience has taught me so much more than I even knew, because you can assume that there are things that that are just standard, right? Like, yeah, it's Australia, it's an extension of the UK in many ways. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the language is the same. It's not. Honestly, the language is not. Like, I keep saying to everyone jokingly, Australian is not my first language, because there are things that you go, wow, no, that really is different, and you can't impose that. And even silly little things. I'll explain something. This is really stupid, right? But it explains. So I said to someone said to me the other day, "Oh, I'm not feeling well," and I said, "Oh, are you poorly?" And they like looked at me like I was completely mad, and they were like, "Poorly? What do you mean?" Because to them that has a completely different connotation. So it's like that they're poor, or that they're like, what are you talking about? And they didn't get it at all. And it was like you have to back. So I had to go, "Are you sick? Are you crook?" You have to kind of like you have to sort of, but it's little things like that you just take for granted and that you assume, and that's without the big stuff around what I'm doing, not assuming that it's the same rules that apply in the UK that apply here, and it will have the same output, and it's the same legislation. And culture is huge. And I don't think we've got time to talk about that today, but I am learning. I'd love us to come back and talk about that, because I think that, not think, I know I'm a change agent, and that I've done a lot of cultural change in my career, but there are chasms between cultures, which is really interesting, isn't it, as well? And so that listening bit is so key. So I guess just like putting this back to you. So um what do you think that how would you as a therapist be guiding people to be better listeners then? What would you be saying? Do you in your sessions, because I guess relationships, it's all about that. So how would you what would be the outputs as well when you're talking to somebody about being a better listener? What would you hope they would gain from it?
Um, so listening, as in everything else, is part of our personal and professional selves. And so part of my theoretical kind of grounding, which has to be part of my practice. There's no point of it being theoretical if I can't bring it into my practice and into, practice sounds as if, it's one and one makes two, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, as you're discovering. It's not, it's not as linear as that. But yes, it has to come in. But part of what people, I think, don't kind of have a realization of, is that we all come with all our cultural nuances. So I call them, and I don't know whether it's a bit outdated, the term, the social graces. They weren't invented by me. They were invented by a family and systemic psychotherapist a long time ago. So we carry around our social and personal leanings, if you like. So, and they're like tags, and they create the meaning of what we bring to things. So, education, geography, culture, race, so many things, sexual orientation, um, so many things, ability that are our social tags, and some of them are more apparent to us than others are. So some of them are seen, as you can see. I'm a different colour. So some of them are seen, some of them are unseen. Some of them are talked about more than others. Some of them are not talked about at all. And every time we come into an encounter, whether that be personal and professional, both parties are bringing those unconsciously sometimes, me not so unconsciously because I am aware of that. And then so that's those things that I think about. And then I try to create a context for listening and for speaking. So both the speaker and the listener can have a context of that interaction, so that everyone knows that the speaking and the talking is going to be an equal phenomena. So that's how I set it up. And it might not mean that, like us, we're listening and we're turn taking, but it might mean I listen for, I don't know, 5 minutes is a long time for someone to speak, but I'm happy to do that because, it's not about the length of time. It's about the meaning that's created out of what's said and then what I can deliver into that.
Yeah. Wow. I think you're so right about that, and it's just making me think like right now because trust is a huge thing, isn't it? Right. And it just made me, and I'm obviously you know this, but again, it just makes you have that light bulb moment that says trust and listening also just so inextricably linked, aren't they?
Yes.
So, I have a new team at the moment, and so, we're learning to trust one another because, the best teams are only going to absolutely become the most brilliant teams if they have that inherent trust that they absolutely fundamentally trust one another, because that's how that they will be able to work and to really be able to drive things forward for the good of the enterprise, of the organization, the people and the colleagues and the customers. So we're really working on that, and the only way that that's going to work is if you listen to one another and you actively listen and hear. So all of that stuff that you've just talked about there, it just feels like that's really resonating as well with what we're trying to do, because we're all very different. And as you say, we might not look it on the outside, but we are, and I'm seeing that, and we know that through all sorts of neurodiversity and various things. We've just done uh, behavioral kind of behavioral assessments, just to understand one another and to understand what our everyday personas are versus how we act and when we're overextended and when we're stressed and how we like to be communicated with, and all those, to try and build that trust. And again, a lot of that is how to listen and how to understand and how to digest and then how to come back in and at what point, and in order to be really good decision makers as well. So that whole point of listening for me is just so key to decision making. So it's key to discovery. It's then key to kind of the trust. It's key to then kind of make the right decisions. It is genuinely fundamental, isn't it? And the way you've just described it is so powerful. So do you think, because we obviously met as nurses, I alluded to that earlier, do you think that helped us to listen, or did it aid our listening, do you think? Or do you think we were good listeners in the first place? Or do you think we learned it? What do you think?
I think two sides of a coin, nursing. I certainly went into nursing thinking that I could be more holistic. Um, and by that I mean be able to do some listening in a more psychological way rather than listening to functionality, which is very important to people in hospital, of course.
Yeah.
All their activities of daily living are interrupted. And so we're there to help them to maintain those and to help them feel that their routines and that their needs are being met. And structurally, if our needs aren't being met structurally, we can't listen psychologically anyway. So, the role of a nurse is quite complex. But for me, I felt that functionality was one side of the coin, but then that other side of the coin where maybe as a nurse you could sit and talk for 5 minutes, meaningful talking, for me, didn't happen. It was a very rush, solution focused, hierarchical, which I think really affects that idea of listening as well. How people position themselves really affects how people listen and think they have space to talk. So that was really kind of influencing in my nursing career. So I think a bit of each, but I think on my journey to listening, it was important to do that. It was important for me to experience that kind of way of feeling that I wasn't listening and that people weren't able to talk um, to different bits of themselves. So,
Yeah. Again, I resonate with that completely. I guess the way I look at it, and I guess it depends what part of nursing that you are doing as well. And um, you have to listen because you have to understand what the patient is what is going through, the patient is going through, so that you can help. But I think then you can very quickly jump to, I need to solve that ill, I need to help that person. And again, so a lot of it is instinct and intuition. And then you're right, the bigger sort of care angle of listening, there's just kind of, there's no time to do. And so, yeah, I guess we discovered stuff about ourselves as we were going through that particular journey. I thought, right, when I was going to do this, and I knew that it would be me and you again, which is amazing. So coming back into podcast world now, and the first one had to be with you for sure. And yeah, I know we've talked about a lot about listening today, but also about discovery. And of course, I suppose I was thinking about us as people now and in our new chapter of our lives. So we speak every week, pretty much, don't we? I don't think we've really missed a week. It's been by a few days. We message most days and with the other side of the world. So do you think we are listening differently to each other, or do you think we have to listen differently to each other now than we did before when we sat next to one another on a Saturday lunchtime causing havoc and chaos? Do you think it's a different sort of, us two on a screen now every week? What do you think?
I miss face to face. I mean, this is face to face, but it isn't really, is it? Um, and one of the things I think that really affected kind of like therapists and social care sector as well was COVID-19 and how everything did go onto the screen and how it did influence people's practice and people's relationships. But I think it's been a huge bonus because I think it has freed us up, hasn't it, to be more intuitive about what might be happening for that person miles away in their home or wherever they are. What privacy have they got? So to be more kind of thinking what's going to affect the listening, what's going to affect the relationship while we're miles and distance apart. And I think we've been quite, I don't know, quite symbiotic, I think, just kind of being intuitive about speaking to each other. And I don't think I feel I miss you. I miss having you beside me and kind of like seeing your eyes properly. And, because you don't, do you, when you're on camera. But anyway, but yeah, I think we've done really well and I think we're doing well. And I think, do you remember I was going? So I think we need to assess each week how we're doing, and then we kind of graded it out of 10, didn't we? So if 0 was not listening enough or not being connected enough, and 10 was being connected, where do you think we are? And that's all part of my job as well. That's how I kind of like create feedback about how is this going? How is this listening going? How's this relationship going? Kind of thing. Yeah. So
So how are we doing? Right. So therefore, as
yeah.
therapist, 0 to 10, how are we doing?
Well, my feedback would be for today or for like
No, in general, like,
general. I think we're about 7.5. What
my God,
about
is that good? Is that good or bad? Why?
what about
Why are we seven and a
you?
half? What can we improve on? Oh my God, I'm now in like a whole
Well,
spiral of like,
you say where you are, and then we can probably think. Yeah,
oh my life. Yeah, I guess no, I think we're about an 8, 8.5. I think we do really well, because the reason I think we do really well as well is because it's the difference in the time zones as well. So I think, well, a couple of things, right? So I think we've kept really well connected, um, because we never had a relationship before this, where this was the norm for us. Apart from COVID, we never had, and as soon as we were allowed out, we would meet in the park anyway, wouldn't we? And like,
yeah,
kind of as soon as we were able to do that. So we've never really had this kind of relationship. We've always been able, or more latterly in our lives, we're together, and when we meet and we sit and we chat and we put the world to rights and do all those things and craziness. So I think that for saying that we've had to change the way that we connect and interact with each other, I think we've done really well. I also think we've done really well because when we do connect, one of us is either going to bed or the other one is getting up. And so, one of us is really either tired or the other
yeah,
one's, sprightly or bright. And I think also, I've had a huge transition in my life. You've also had a huge transition in your life at the same time. Some ill health, which I know you probably don't want to go into, but you've had some, severe health issues. So we've been doing that at the same time. So I actually think I'm pretty proud of us. Sorry, beep that out, people. I think we're pretty proud of us because
yeah,
yeah. So that's why I'm an 8, I guess.
yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think maybe I would be an 8. But for the kind of structural stuff, like being on screen, it's it's like the quality. Yeah, and sometimes there is that about the listening, and the talking and building trust. Sometimes obstacles get in the way, which you can't kind of help. They are what they are. And yeah, so I apart from those things, I think, when we speak, I still feel that connection. And um yeah, and these times are so kind of dear to me because somehow the distance makes you feel like you could be less connected, but actually when you begin a conversation and when you see each other, it's like the distance isn't really there.
No.
It's yeah, so yeah,
And I think that's the thing that sometimes with it, we forget that it's 12,500 miles. There's just little things that happen that remind you that it is. And you're like, whoa, and that's the
mm,
other side of the world, and there's this different time zone. Um, and yeah, I guess to me on reflection, it's been, yeah, I'm in this discovery phase, but I know that you are too, because I know that you're discovering situations in your own life. As I say, you've had some really significant health issues, physical health issues that you've had to navigate. You've had to navigate me not being there. I had to navigate you not being there. We've had to navigate kind of continuing this relationship and still having the impetus to do that without it
yes,
also being something that's like, um I guess what I'm trying to say is when we would meet before, we would go out, wouldn't we, as well? We'd have lunch, it'd be social, we'd have the cheeky
yeah,
night of fizz, the
mm,
whole thing. Whereas now it's very much a this kind of relationship where we're
yes,
both on screen, we're talking. It's like, so in some ways it's more intense, isn't it? Because you're not
mm,
people watching other people, or you're not going, oh, have you seen them over there? It's you
yeah,
and I, eyeball to eyeball. So So I think we're discovering how to deal with that and to keep that. And I'm really proud of us. I think we're, with everything else we've got going on as well, outside of each other, we are doing an amazing job through listening, through supporting, through being our usual fabulous selves.
Yeah. I guess that was one of the things I thought about, was how do you kind of listen and help people through their own transitions when you are going through such a big transition yourselves, and maybe a couple of transitions, kind of levels of transitions, and how difficult and challenging that has been, maybe for both of us over the last, you know, months or so. Um, yeah, I was thinking about that a lot, and I don't think I've got the answer to that. But I think for me, it's made me want to listen more. It slowed me down a bit in terms of kind of, because, even though I have all these things that guide me, I can still become very assuming and very hasty to get to where, we need to get to. I think my transitions that I've been going through has really kind of helped me to slow down. Something sometimes involuntarily, but sometimes, voluntarily, kind of thinking, yes, I must slow down.
Yeah. And it is, and I'm in a similar situation, not through health scenario, but I'm having to do what we now deem slow down to go faster. So,
Yes, yes.
that's what I'm learning from a work perspective, because if not, I'm going to get it wrong, because I
Mm,
think I can see already what needs to happen here. And because of my experience, because of my intuition, because of all those kind of, learned behaviors and all those things that I carry. But
yeah,
as I said earlier, this is different. And so, I'm in that discovery phase, learning, looking, changing and adapting where I need to, where I can see that there's things
yes.
that need to happen, doing all of that. But I think for once for me, I'm having to slow down to go faster. And that does not come easy.
No.
It does not come easy. You've been forced to slow down. I'm having to force myself. And it's like, I'm really, again, discovering not only this new kind of entity, I'm discovering in me that, that's wow. It's not my early modes. Yeah, listen is great. And it's like listening, right? Okay, let's move
Yeah,
on. Then now I've heard that.
yeah,
I'm hearing what you're saying. Let's do
yeah,
it. You said, let's
yeah.
do. Whereas now it's having to discover all the different pieces and wait until right. And it's like,
Yes,
and breathe. Yes,
yes. Yeah, because I guess you're transitioning people, aren't you? And you're both transitioning, like you're transitioning everyone together. So they have to be part of that and feel that they're part of that transition. Um, and I think that's so difficult, especially when you come into a new organization, because people don't want to feel that they're shoved, or they don't want to think that they've been doing something, that told to do something they don't want to do. So it's quite delicate, isn't it? I can imagine. It's just so, and then you're kind of like, yeah, I can fix that, and you've done it so many times before. So
yeah,
you must be thinking, why is it so kind of like challenging now? But as we said right at the start, it's like coming to a different country, isn't it? Kind of, we started that conversation, and it is. And yeah, how do you acculturize and help people to acculturize to you and feel that you both kind of on in tandem together?
exactly. And being respectful that, as you said, I may have done it a few times before, but they have not.
No.
And so therefore, being respectful of that and really listening and understanding their backstories, what they feel, where they see it going, joining those dots up, all the stuff we've said, just not assuming and not just going full speed ahead just because I've done it before. That just will not work. So
Mm.
so we just keep discovering. So that this is my new season of podcasts. Bigger, braver, bolder. You had to be the first. You had to be my first guest, and it's been so amazing. So yeah, subtitle Discovery, but bigger, braver, bolder. Because obviously, what we're doing now, new chapter. Everything's bigger, everything's braver, and everything's just that bit bolder. So I've got three questions that I want to ask you. Okay, so first one, what does bigger mean for you right now?
Oh, wow. I suppose conversely, there's bigger, smaller, little. Um, um, so bigger for me has been taken up actually. I hardly know where to start. It's such a massive question. I don't want to take up a lot of time. But yeah, it's such a massive question. So bigger for me just makes me think about little. And I have a little granddaughter now, and she is so amazing. So, but as little as she is, and she's a little poppet and a little dot, the bigness of becoming a grandparent has like knocked me sideways. Um, and maybe we need another space to talk about that at length. But yeah, so bigger for me has meant that. Um, and then bigger for me has meant seeing myself. And I don't want to get tearful because it's quite, as you say, I'm going through this kind of physical health transition and stuff. But yeah, bigger for me has been discovering those bits of myself that I didn't really connect with wholly and maybe didn't even want to, like vulnerability. That's been bigger. Um, and yeah, so yeah, that those are the two things I would say at the moment.
Okay, so leading on from that, and this might make you get tearful, but this is just the question. But it's like, and these are the questions I want to ask my guests on the podcast, because it's
Okay.
bigger, braver, bolder. So the next one
Yeah.
is for you. What's the most brave thing you've done recently? I think I know the answer to that, but you might have a different take. So
Oh, it's really hard, and I don't know. And this is a cultural thing as well. And it's a cultural thing because I myself am not just from one culture. I'm from like maybe three now, like not the cultures that I've lived in two different cultures, but I carry around so many different things about maybe like this idea of being brave, you know. There's the kind of English version. You don't talk about being brave. Other people call you brave, you don't take that position yourself. So there's that. And then there's the kind of thing about, yeah, personally, have I been brave? Is it relative? Is it a relative thing? Everybody's brave because they face their own um, difficulties and things as they go along. And I've certainly kind of met people who have been through so much and I think have been so much braver than me. But maybe it's time that that I stand on that podium or whatever when you get your little badge because you've ran 100 meters and you've done well.
when's that day ever
It's
happening?
time.
You standing on a podium with your 100-meter badge.
Exactly. Maybe it's time I like take off that cloak of Englishism about bravery and stand up with my little badge and say, yes, I have been brave over the past
You
year.
have.
And
You have.
yeah, and overcoming a physical illness is not just about the physical thing. It's reaches right inside you and plucks things out of you that you didn't even know were there. And one of those things, I think, and thank you for asking the question, because even as I'm speaking, I can find that the words are transforming me in the moment, and that's the power of words as well, the power of language and meaning. So I can now stand on my little podium and say, yeah, I've got a little badge that tells me that I have been brave, and I'm going to be accepting of that.
Good. So you should wear that badge because, I mean, to me, you've always been brave. We've talked about you flipping coming into the country when you were 8 years old and all those things, and we've talked about that on the podcast before in terms of some of the things you've dealt with. But yeah, the last year you've been exceptionally brave, which leads me on to the final question then. So we've done big, we've done brave. So when do you feel at your boldest?
Oh. When do you feel at your boldest? I don't know. I think it's very kind of like situational and contextual but I guess I feel at my boldest when structurally I'm situated. I've got a lovely home. I live in a lovely place. I get up each morning and I can feel at peace with myself. So I think that builds boldness. And I think, when you're in a place of uncertainty, the boldness kind of like it disappears a little bit because you're trying to find your ground, you're trying to situate yourself. So when do I feel boldest? Yeah, maybe when I'm in a situation like this, maybe when I can speak my truth and hear other people's truths and, yeah, bring new meaning into the relationship and into the relationship other people are struggling with. Um, yeah. So maybe I feel bold building that with you, today and what we've been doing over the past months. Um, and newness. I think newness makes me feel bold.
Well, we've got some newness to come for sure. Not least,
Exactly. That's what
your
I was
first trip
thinking.
to Australia is
I
coming in a
know.
few weeks' time.
That's exactly what I was thinking about the newness. Yeah, I'm beside myself, but I can't express that sort of excitement and newness here in this context.
Me either. We'll savor that for ourselves. Well, listen, thank you. It's been a joy. And do you know what I think I've learned today by listening is that we are still, after all this time, discovering each other. Still,
Ah,
there's still stuff to discover after all this time, which is just, I've listened to you today and I've thought, flipping heck, there's still stuff I do not know about
ah,
that guy.
yeah.
Legend, woman.
But the
You're a
wonder of it,
legend.
and the wonder of it, Debs, as well. I think curiosity makes you a good listener. So we are curious people. We ask curious
On, in
questions.
brackets, nosy.
Exactly. Yeah. So, no, it's been a joy today, and I'm so happy to have connected again in this context and just to be able to share and feel the connection.
Love it. Love it. See you soon.
Take care. See you soon. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, Debbie, I absolutely loved it. I don't know how
Oh my
you felt
God.
about it, but again, I could listen to Veronica for hours.
Oh, it's just amazing though, isn't it? I mean, we haven't done a podcast now for some time, have we? Rightly because of all the things that have been going on. And of course, she had to be the first guest. And I know she's been through such a lot lately. And, you go through that, oh, can I still do it? How's it going to work? And I know that Ron had some nervousness, but she is just golden, isn't she? It's like I just love, I mean, we just, as you know, chat all the time, but some of the stuff that came out of there, and it's like it's just so educational as much as anything else, isn't it? You listen to it and you think, wow, yeah, it's kind of like feels I'm getting a free therapy session most of the time from like this, not just my best friend, but this amazing psychotherapist. Yeah, no, it was amazing, loved it.
Some of the things I heard, we're going to start with listening is the new
The
knowing.
new knowing, I know.
Absolutely golden. And wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Balance of listening and acting. I thought that was really interesting. That's something I'm really conscious of when I go into situations, like you were saying, you kind of sometimes know where you need to go and what the solutions might be. That power of listening is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. That is key, isn't it? And then the other bit that really resonated for me was the bit where we talked about preparing yourself beforehand and thinking of, like, when she talked about the social graces and, the baggage that you come with and that difference. And so then you think about not only yourself and how you're preparing to listen, but if you're in my instance, you're in a team meeting, or, you're with customers, or you're, with stakeholders or government or whatever, and you're thinking, what are they coming with? What's their biases? What's their day been like? What's their preconceived idea? There's so much at play, isn't there, now, that you're like, whoa, this is huge. It's so multifaceted, it's so multi-layered.
Absolutely. That has really made me think, because quite a few times when I've gone into situations and maybe there is some stuff going on in the background, or maybe I've got a meeting later that day where I'm already thinking about that and not listening to the moment that we're in.
Yeah.
I've learned so much. Like, yeah, that
Oh,
felt
yeah.
therapy for me as well. So it was absolutely wonderful. Oh,
Oh, I mean, it always is, isn't it? And then, I think when she said as well, the miracle of snow, and I was like, well, you're just like, what? Oh my God. Yeah, just, oh no.
you-
And Penny's coming. Penny, she thought, oh, bless her. You're like, oh, you little 8-year-old who's coming from Jamaica, and you think that, like, pennies are going to fall from
yeah.
heaven, like, onto the pavement. You're like, oh my God. And as I say, it's what I've really learned as well is that, I've been talking about this being my discovery era, and yeah, I'm still discovering stuff about my best friend as well. So yeah, how good is that, in a way? Amazing, loved it.
Well, thanks again, Veronica, and thank you to everybody that listened. Join us next time, and make sure that you keep
Yeah,
sharing this journey. It's great to have everybody on board with us.
we're glad to be back. Yay.